Hey crafty friends, this is Chelsea, and today's video I'm doing something I rarely ever do, and that is using only cardstock for my layout today. I usually always start off with patterned paper and go from there. The Close to My Heart cardstock is super fun because it has the true color on one side and then a lighter shade or tint on the other side. And this month is Cardstock Carnival at Close to My Heart, which means the best prices on cardstock that you'll see all year long. And so the creative design team decided to do a collaboration and challenge each other to make a project with only cardstock. So make sure you check out the playlist at the end of this video so that you can keep up with everyone else's videos. I'm day number 1, so there will be more videos posted every day this week. As part of this big cardstock sale, there is an exclusive product, which is these sheets of die cuts. So you can see this is high gloss. This is UV coated cardstock. So this is only the thickness of cardstock, but they're all die cut into these shapes. It's the same shapes out of every color. So you basically have a whole rainbow. You can get them individually or as like a big bundle at a discount. And I'll have that linked below along with the rest of the sale. In addition to those beautiful die cuts, I'm going to be using this Hot Air Balloon Fest Stampin' Thin Cuts on my layout today. I just love this hot air balloon and I thought it would go perfectly. Today I'm making a single 12 by 12 layout, so I'm just going to pull out one Versamat and then the base is going to be 12 by 12 White Daisy cardstock. Always a great way to start a layout. Now I have linen cardstock here and I'm going to be using both sides. So the darker side and the lighter side of linen. The lighter side I cut at 3/4 of an inch and then the darker side is just 1/4 of an inch. And basically I'm going to repeat this across the whole background to kind of create my own pattern paper. It adds quite a bit of texture but is very subtle because linen is a very light gray and then I have my base being white. So it's not going to steal the show, but it will add some nice texture and interest to the background. Now I really don't have a method to my madness here. I'm just kind of laying these out and adding, strips until I think the distance is good between all of them. And I'm going to end up using about 9 of the 3/4 inch strips and 8 of the 1/4 inch strips. And when it comes to placement, I'm starting the first thicker ones on the edge there about a 1/16 of an inch. There's just a little strip of white on the edge. You could go right to the edge if you want to. I really don't have a reason of why I started in a little bit, but that's what I decided to do. And then I'm just kind of scooching these all over, spreading them out. I did end up eyeballing it. Even though this was on my Versamat, I could have measured, but I just eyeballed it and kind of split the difference. And then I put it through my sewing machine. So I took white thread and I sewed down both sides of those thicker strips. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to the extra work of sewing on my page, but I'm glad I did because I really like how it turned out. It's a pretty simple background, but I think it'll look great with a splash of color on top. Speaking of splash, I have these really fun photos of my daughter just one day after a rainstorm out splashing in puddles. And they are matted with a very thin mat of black cardstock. The larger photo is actually 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, so a little bit skinnier than 4 by 6. And here is the hot air balloon that I stamped and colored up. I colored it with my TriBlend markers off camera, and I used Aqua Blue blend, light green blend, true blue, magenta, and burnt orange for all the colors on here. And then I also did some flowers. So there's different things that you can put in the basket of the hot air balloon. There was like little animals, and I really like these flowers. I thought it was a nice little pop of color to brighten up that basket. And then I pulled out this banner from one of the die cut sheets. This is the raspberry color. And I'm going to be adding this on top of the hot air balloon with foam tape. Okay, here comes the fun part. I am going to start figuring out where I want all my little die cuts. So I punched out a whole bunch of the different pieces. I knew I wanted to use hexagons and kind of scatter them across the page in sort of like a triangle pattern. So I want to have 3 groupings of the hexagons And my goal is just to kind of make sure I have a sampling of all the colors that I decided to use in each of those groupings. I'm also using hearts and butterflies as like extra little embellishments. So I want to use a combination of the outline hexagons, the little solid hexagons from the middle of those outlines, and also some of the hexagons that have hearts die cut out of them, because then that just kind of continues that heart theme that I want showing up in each of my little clusters. I did decide to place my hexagons with the points going upwards because of that heart hexagon. That's the way they were cut out. So then I decided to do all the rest like that. I don't have the spacing completely perfect between all of them, but I think it looks better that way, that it's a little bit offset and scattered with the different sizes. It looks a little bit more natural. I'm going to go ahead and glue these down off camera. Just want to make sure that because there's that textured background with the cardstock strips, you kind of have to hold it and kind of press it in. And that's why I end up using liquid glue. I figured it would hold a little bit better on top of the texture of the different strips of cardstock, as well as like the stitching and everything. And that seemed to work out pretty good. I'm now going to work on my bottom section of hexagons. And same thing, switching up the colors, using some solid ones, using some outline ones, and just filling in this bottom area. The shape of these clusters is kind of just turning out organically. I started by placing one and then building the next one, and I just want to make sure they sit nicely with the flat sides, next to each other. And this is just kind of how it all came together. And I kind of just stopped when I felt like I was getting too much, or if I was getting too close to the edge. I did go ahead and glue down all these pieces off screen. I didn't want to make you sit here and watch that. I will mention that that white hexagon you see down at the bottom, that's where I'm putting my journaling. I don't have a ton to say about this. It's just a really fun memory of us going to the park and Isabella just splashing through the puddles for quite a long time and giggling and enjoying herself. She loves splashing in puddles. That's like one of her favorite things. And I can hear her giggles in my mind. So I knew that was a memory that I wanted to document. And I thought a single page was a perfect way to do that. Sometimes, you just don't have enough to make a double page layout. I want to make it a point to do more pages like this, where maybe it's just kind of one memory and do a single page. I had lots of photos, but I just narrowed it down to these 4 photos. Now, as I'm getting towards having enough hexagons here, I started debating about colors. I tried out swapping out the pink butterfly with the orange butterfly, decided to go back to the pink. You can see I did my journaling off screen on that stitched hexagon. That's a retired thin cut. And then once I got that done, I was like, it needs something in this corner. When I have that white there, and then just to have it end, it just wasn't working for me. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to throw a couple more hexagons in there, just kind of finish off that bottom cluster, and so that it just doesn't end with the white hexagon in my journaling. I ended up with this weird little space when I wrote out my journaling, which happens to me so much. I don't know why I cannot seem to write things in like even lines. Even when I draw myself journaling lines, I end up with these weird gaps. So I threw that little orange heart in there, and I had to trim down that pink hexagon because I had already put my journaling down with foam tape, and I didn't want to try and peel that up. Now I'm using the journaling strip stickers to write my date. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have the little tab die cut from the Glossy Die Cuts, but I didn't think I could write on it without like smudging and smearing it. So I wrote on one of those, and then I trimmed it down to fit on top of this file tab. I'm just going to trim off a little bit more so that I have even spacing around the top and the sides. And then that's going to get tucked up here. I thought about giving this more of a title, but I decided the word happy was good enough. I have my little journaling there. I really didn't want to take up any more of my white space with anything busy, because I felt like it was starting to get too busy if I added anything else. I'm tilting it here so hopefully you can see the shine of those glossy die cuts. So pretty. And even though there's no pattern paper, all the interest from the repeated shape of the hexagons and the different colors that I chose to use, I'm really happy with how this turned out. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you check out this playlist with all the other Creative Design Team videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.